Dale,
Yes.
Richard.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, thanks. I went through ROTC in college and got a commission in the Army. And so I had all this training about how to fight a war and the theories behind what to do
Yeah.
and how to deploy your troops. And when I got to Korea, I realized that that was all talk. They don't practice it.
Well, yeah, I noticed on your picture that you sent, and that you have the whole series of pictures you have. You were pretty well involved in the Korean War.
Well, I was running on the front line, being shot at. But the thing was, they tell you in military training, always get the high ground. But in the pictures you saw, will be standing by the railroad track where my bunker was. The hills behind us were the enemy hills. They had the high ground. They were looking down on us every day, and knew when we were eating a meal and would shoot at us. And so it was. I met a career soldier, captain, I think he was leaving Korea as I was coming in, and he was a supply officer, and he said, "I'm giving up my career because I don't believe that they know what the heck they're doing, and they don't practice what they know they should do." So he said, "I'm quitting." He was leaving as I was arriving. It was a very interesting experience.
So how was he able to quit? I thought once you're in there, aren't you stuck unless your superiors told you you could go?
Well, he could resign his commission, I suppose.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And just as I eventually did, but not too long afterwards.
So, if I understand, so you can resign your commission, and you don't have to stay on the front lines, and anything like that, or they.
Well, I doubt that would work. Maybe his term was up.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, as if mine was when I left. But after I got out of the active duty and was put on reserve. And then I think all that episode in Berlin where the airlift was, I thought, hey, I'm just getting, I'm way behind in my career of business, and I don't want to be called up again. So I resigned my commission then, so that if they decided they needed more troops fighting around Berlin, I didn't have to go.
Oh, okay. So when you resign your commission, you're exempt from being drafted or anything like that beyond that, because you already done your time, or what?
Well, I don't know how that works. I think your draft age is tied. Draft is tied to age.
Okay.
So they were calling people who were maybe 25 at the most, or something like that. So if you get older than that, I don't think they're going to call me at my age. Along those lines. There I was on that front line, and you can picture that bunker in that picture.
Yeah.
And I was told one night, general who was in charge of the 7th Division that I was assigned to lived probably 500 yards behind on high ground. And he had a bunker overlooking where I was. And he decided that it was time to send a patrol out into enemy territory to draw fire so they would know where the enemy was. And who should get chosen? Me.
Oh, boy. So apparently it worked out pretty good for you.
Well, oh, Snuffy Smith was his name, General Smith, and a relative by.
They did what?
Smith is in our family tree. Mother was Smith.
I see. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I won't blame him though. Anyway, I took a patrol out to no man's land through the barbed wire, way out into enemy territory, until I found a spot where I thought I could hide my troops behind a tree or something that Snuffy couldn't see. And it was night anyway, so we went out as far as we could go and find coverage to protect ourselves, and waited until it was really dark before we started home. But nobody got hurt. It was fine. The enemy. When I arrived there, the people we were relieving said, "Leave them alone, and they'll leave you alone." So.
But that's different. You're supposed to go out there and draw fire, weren't you?
Yeah. Pleasant duty.
That's where you need to have a good Rin Tin Tin dog.
Well, we had the Kagnu Ethiopian troops, Haile Selassie's private guard, assigned to our regiment, and they were called night fighters. They would go out and sit on either side of a path, and they'd feel the shoes of people who were walking down that path. If they were rubber or vinyl, they would kill them. If they were leather, they were GIs, and they'd leave them alone.
So
night fighters.
They could feel the feet then, huh?
Yeah, they could feel the feet.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Well, I assume you probably had several frightful experiences during that time frame, huh?
Well, it was frightfully cold, for one thing. And no other really. I did have what I thought was a mortar round land beside me, but it was a dud. It didn't go off, so thank goodness.
Boy, yeah.
And I went over to visit a squad that was alongside of me, off to the right. And I got shot at there, and I just yelled back, "You better adjust your sights." You know.
No, you don't want to advise them at all.
Yeah. Well, I had decided before I left Fort Benning, Georgia, that I was going to come home because I wanted to marry Barbara. And so I knew I was going to come back. I had a feeling that I would, and I did meet a man at Benning who was a lieutenant also, And he said if he has to go, he knew he wouldn't come back. I said, well, I know I'm going to. So he didn't
I'll be darned.
come back. I ran across him. He was in an outpost in front of the front line at that wherever he was, being bombarded by the Chinese.
So how many months were you serving there in Korea?
From February until of 1 year, 52, to March of 53. So, no, it couldn't be that long. I know I went in February, so maybe it was May I got out of the next year. It was 53.
So what's that, about 1 year or?
Yeah, it was about 10 months anyway.
Yeah, in that area. Huh? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on those pictures there, we have the mountains in the background. Did you have to go up there and check out those mountains, or did you were involved in taking out some of the enemy up there in those mountains, or did
well,
you?
Thankfully, I wasn't. But
Okay.
I'll tell you what did happen. We were again. I suppose it was Snuffy Smith. At some point in time, I was offered an interview with the heavy mortar company commander, 81 millimeter mortars, and they operate about 500 yards behind the front line. So this colored captain, I'm trying to think of his name. Anyway, he interviewed me for a job as a gunnery officer, and I got the job. I knew I wanted it, and I did my best to impress him so I'd get the job. And I think being a Californian and not a Southerner, it probably helped.
I'll be darned, huh?
Anyway, so I was behind the lines, but at that point, as a gunnery officer, and firing mortars, and there was an operation on that big hill, and the little hill coming up to it, which was right in front of our front line, because the line curved from where I was, left the railroad track and went, I guess it was east. Anyway, so I was on the radio helping to adjust fire in support of that operation. And they did push hard, and they got up the hill, but lost a lot of lives. And then were chased off the hill by the Chinese later on. Actually, what happened was that our commanding officer reassigned the responsibility for keeping the hill to a different division, 3rd Division instead of the 7th, which was right alongside of us, and had a lot of Korean troops involved with them. And they didn't hold the hill. The Chinese got it back again. So there was another Port Chop Hill. That was a different one where we were supporting it, and it was ridiculous, just absolutely. When I arrived, I was assigned to the 31st Infantry Regiment, and there were no career soldiers assigned to that. That was called the American Foreign Legion. And I heard two lieutenants talking one day from a unit right alongside of us. This is in reserve. And they were comparing notes. And they were both career officers, saying, one telling the other one, look, this is the only war we've got. We've got to make the most of it. Yeah, so the point was that they were very, very involved with what they call the 201 file. It's a record of their military experience. And you have to have combat duty on your 201 file if you want to get promoted. So there were a lot of Pentagon colonels coming over to Korea to get war duty, active duty time in a war situation on the record, so they could get promoted to a general and retire as a general. It's ridiculous. This is not the way we should be operating.
Well, good chatting with you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Very good.